Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hey everybody, it's Tom Foster, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I talk with legal leaders about marketing mindset and the growth of law firm businesses. This episode is brought to you by my company, Foster Web Marketing. Since the internet was born, Foster Web Marketing has been the premier provider of customized websites, marketing, video, and strategic marketing solutions for elite personal injury law firms. Our unparalleled web technology and marketing systems set the gold standard in the industry, catering exclusively to a discerning clientele who demand the best. Partner with Foster Web Marketing to experience uncompromising quality, cutting-edge technology, and exceptional service. Visit Foster Web Marketing to discover how we can help you achieve your most ambitious goals and solidify your position at the forefront of your field. But today, I'm excited to have one of our most successful clients, a buddy of mine, Kenneth Berger, as our guest. Kenneth Berger started the Kenneth Berger Law Firm in Columbia, South Carolina, when he was just 29 years old. Let's look at him. He's a kid still. Most people said he was too young to go out on his own and doubted he would be successful, but Kenny had a clear vision of what he wanted for himself and what kind of firm he wanted to build. Many years later, he has proved all those naysayers wrong. Single-handedly, Kenny has built a personal injury firm that commands the respect of PI lawyers nationwide. Insurance companies fear him, and big corporations that laugh off other lawyers fear him. Just this year, Kenny faced down one such corporation and won a settlement of $26 million for his client. This is just one of the many million-dollar settlements Kenneth Berger has won for his clients. You can check out his website at bergerlawsc.com to learn the facts about all of them. So Kenny, welcome to the World of Marketing, and thank you for agreeing to be on my show once again.
Tom, thanks for having me. And I love the intro about Foster Web Marketing. As a 10 or 11 or something year client, I can say all those things are true, especially the discerning, demanding client, which we've been.
Oh, you've been a fantastic client. And
I appreciate the kind words. And the only thing I'd change there is on the single-handedly. It's taken a lot of hands, including yours.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to correct me on that. But credit where credit is due, because, as a young man of only 29, you had the kahunas to start this thing. And, that's really it. You've got, because this is not easy, is it?
It's hard.
It's hard. And lawyers aren't necessarily the best businessmen out there, right?
That's correct. And then the trend we've seen, I'd say the last 5 years, is that businessmen aren't the best lawyers.
Yeah, that's true, right? That's exactly right. But okay, so I'd like to talk about your journey.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when you started the firm. Like, why, did you feel like you could do this when you were just, 29?
Yes. So, part of it was cojones or cahoon, but that one.
Yeah.
And, part of it was just perspective, even if the perspective was skewed or inaccurate, it turned out to be beneficial. And what I mean by that is, so my dad went to college when he was 16, he went to dental school when he was 18 because he was able to get in after his second year and thought, all right, I'm tired of being poor. I'll go to professional school. Then he went to Vietnam, came home. So by the time he was 25, he had a practice, had been to war, had 2 kids. And so by the time I was 28, I thought, my whole life has passed me by. Like, what am I doing with myself? All I am is a lawyer, And
where did you work then? What were you doing? Were you working at a big firm or?
Small firm that did some personal injury, some workers' comp, some criminal defense, and kind of some random other cases that would land on my desk. And I was there. Great guy named Neil Laurie, wonderful, wonderful guy, great family. And I worked for Neil for a couple of years, but I just had it in my blood to want my own shop, to to do things the way I wanted them done. And I think it was that combination of, on the one hand, being an idealist, but also I was the youngest in the family for a long time. So I also had that kind of bratty, want things my way, combined with this is the way the world ought to be, kind of, again, very, very idealistic. And Tom, what it really came down to is that early on in practice, I saw that insurance companies would treat people who had questionable cases and people who had really clear life-changing injury cases the exact same way. They greeted both of them with skepticism, oftentimes disrespect, lies, mistruth, just anything and everything that they could do to prevent that person from full justice, which again, they ought to be doing in cases where someone's BSing them. But in these legitimate cases with legitimate people, those are the people who probably got treated the worst, right? And I thought, that's not fair. And if I can just represent good people in good cases and make the playing field a little more level, yeah, that's an honorable way to make a living. So that was the gist and genesis of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Insurance companies are quick to pay out for small claims and get that, quick justification. Look, we're so great. Look how quick we paid you. But the big ones, they fight. The big ones, that's what they're taught to do, right? That's why they're one of the biggest industries in the country, the insurance industry.
Yeah, and I just think there's a better way to do it. In fact, if I were in charge of the insurance world, I think I'd do it the exact opposite. I think I'd fight the small cases and try to do everything I could to eliminate those, and just say, hey, look, if this isn't legitimate, we are going to fight you tooth and nail for a long-term economic benefit. It might cost us more money in the short term, paying defense costs, going to trial, but we're going to disincentivize settlement mill firms and folks who malinger from bringing these frivolous claims or these trumped up claims.
Right.
On the other hand, if I've got somebody with a brain injury, spinal cord injury, a death case, something that's just been absolutely life altering, whatever it may be, if I were them, I'd try to go to those folks and their lawyers early on and just say, hey, look, what's it going to take? And I think the what's it going to take mentality would end up saving them a lot of money on these, multi-million, 7, 8, potentially 9-figure cases. But, that's just one plaintiff's lawyer's perspective.
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of experience. Anybody that look at your website right there on the homepage, I mean, obviously the one that stands out is the one that I mentioned in the intro, this $26 million case for the pool, chemicals in the pool. You want to talk a little bit about that? Give me a little background on that. I read about it, but I'm interested to know a little bit more. Like how did you get that thing, right? And how were you able to get them to settle that much where everybody else had failed before you?
Yeah, thank you. So first, I'm not sure if we've talked about this before. I don't think I've mentioned this to you. Maybe I did in an email in passing. That case came to us because of our website.
Well, that's
you want to plug for Foster Web Marketing. We got a $26 million case from our website.
Yeah, that pays for a lot of websites, and
that's
exactly.
That pays some bills.
Yeah.
So, wonderful family from Lumberton, North Carolina. They were looking for a lawyer for a burn injury case. And years ago, we created a pretty extensive, pretty detailed burn injury case on our Foster website. And about 2 months before this injury occurred, 2.5 months before it occurred, we'd actually opened a second office down in Myrtle Beach. So our main office is in Columbia, South Carolina, but we'd opened a second office down in Myrtle Beach. And these folks wanted a lawyer who was in Myrtle Beach. Well, we're in Myrtle Beach. We're in South Carolina. We're in Columbia. But they came in through the burn injury page, reached out to us. They were interviewing different lawyers. We said, look, we'd be glad to meet you all in person. At this point, Tom, we didn't see it as a $26 million case. We didn't think it was going to be necessarily a 7-figure case. We didn't know anything about it other than,
Sure.
Kid goes to a resort, later gets diagnosed, according to the family, with chemical burns. And that was all that we knew. We didn't have anything else. And so early on, we're talking to the little boy's aunt, we're talking to his mom, and his mom is a nurse practitioner. And the mom was discussing it very clinically. I think because of her medical training and probably just psychologically not wanting to have to talk so much about how her child suffered, she really minimized it, right? Like she basically said, yeah, he had a burn. He's doing good now. We had to scrub it some. He hated that, but yeah, he's doing fine. That's what we knew. Right? That doesn't sound on its face like a $26 million case, of course.
Of course not. Right.
So the first thing we wanted to figure out was well, why? Why did this kid get burned? And if he got
what? And I'm also interested in what they were interested in. Like what was the client? What was the mom asking for? Like she want justice, or what was she coming to you and like, I want a big bag of money, or what was the narrative there?
That mom didn't even want to hire a lawyer.
Interesting.
It was mom's aunt, a lady named Selena, great lady. And Selena was kind of one of the voices in this really big family. They lived up in Lumberton, North Carolina, just across on the North Carolina side. And Lumberton's a tough place. Not a very wealthy county. It's Robeson County, North Carolina. Not a real wealthy place. It goes back to the Lumbee Native American tribe. It's just a hardscrabble place where shit happens, And so for mom, this was one of those like, yeah, Ashton got burnt. We don't want it to happen to anybody else. The aunt was the one who was like, we want people held accountable. We want to know what happened. And perhaps the biggest compliment I can give to mom, Tom, she never once asked about money. In fact, we told her on a Friday, we found out on a Friday that the other side had agreed to pay all the several layers of insurance, which totaled $26 million. We learned that on Friday. We followed up with her on Monday to start talking about what to do with that money because it involved a child. We were like, hey, how was your weekend? She was like, oh, it was good. You have any thought toward this money? Oh, I haven't really thought about it. Hell, I mean, brutal honesty. I've thought about it. I've thought about it.
For sure.
Wow. So early on, the family just, the thing with them throughout the case was they didn't want it to happen to anybody else. If they gotten paid $1 million, they would have been happy. 2 million happy, 5 million happy, 10, whatever the number was. But, we spent so much time building a rapport and creating trust and care and just not only attorney-client, but just person to person, friend to friend, like how you and I are.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had that relationship. So where, they were going to listen to what we had to say. And we thought it had the potential to be a very large 8, if not a 9-figure verdict because of some of the defendant's conduct that was uncovered throughout the case. And Tom, it was mainly the value drivers on this one were the defendant's conduct, the cover up that we found, how high up a lot of the bad behavior went within this corporation. And then there was a video of our poor little client when he was in the burn center up at the University of North Carolina. And they just got done scrubbing his wound, debriding his wound. And in this video, bless his heart, he's screaming, and he's screaming so much that he starts trying to distract himself. So he starts punching himself in the head to try to distract himself from the pain. And that video, when you watch that video and you think, my God, look at the way these adults' bad decisions, conscious acts to endanger children harmed this little boy, combined with the fact this could have just as easily been my child. For us, that made it an arguably 9-figure case. And we just told them, look, if you don't want to pay the 26, case isn't going to settle. We'd just be arguing over extra contractual money at that point. And the chips fell. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we worked on this case. So we recently got tabbed. There's a lawyer out in California named Nick Rowley, who is incredible, just a phenom, very famous within the trial bar. And I had a chance to meet Nick and his team, including a fellow named Brian Ward out in Montana a few years ago, and we all hit it off. So Brian and I did a lot of work on this case. Nick came in off the top rope from time to time. We got big guns, and from time to time we'd call in the fast movers for some bomb drops. But yeah, so our combined teams at my office and Nick's office, just 1-2 that tag teamed it, and then Nick was really kind and said, hey, very impressed by the work we've done. Would you all like to be part of our trial lawyers for justice team? Would you all like to be our firm in South Carolina? And it was like, well, hell yeah. And that's something that we're going to be announcing and kind of working on more publicly.
Yeah, I want to talk to you more about that at another time. Tell me how you got from, I'm not sure if this is worth anything, to 26 million.
Yeah. So first things first, we want to get a timeline. I think jurors like facts. I think judges like facts. Now, they make decisions based on emotion, but they back them up with the facts. So we had emotion going for us because a child got hurt. So we already had kind of people leaning emotionally in our favor, but we wanted, we needed facts to back it up. And so people could justify for themselves why they come back with that kind of money. So we want to get a timeline of events and kind of figure out, how did this happen? And can we say this is more likely than not a chemical burn? And if it's more likely than not a chemical burn, do we know that pool chemicals, specifically chlorine in this case, are what most likely caused it? And we were able to do that. The chief burn surgeon up at UNC is a guy named Booker King. We got in touch with Dr. King, great guy, great physician, and just said, hey, based on the history, we've gone through y'all's records. It looks like everything points from a differential diagnosis standpoint to this being a chemical burn, and that the most likely source of the chemical burn would have been pool chemicals, and the pool chemical that probably causes is chlorine. He was like, yeah. And then we said, hey, have you treated chlorine burns before? Yeah, over in Iraq. So it turned out our treating burn surgeon knew what chlorine burns look like, knew what chemical burns look like, had treated them as part of the U.S. military. So that was a good fact, right? Like that gives a little more.
Sure.
So
credence to it, yeah.
At that point, we felt good about causation. The thing we had to do next time was figure out why. Like, why was there that much damn chlorine in the pool? Why did the danger exist? Who created it? So we start digging into the other side's documents, and usually the best stuff comes from the other side, right? Like a lot of times it's not our expert. It's the other side's own documents, their own data, their cell phone messages, their emails, their own testimony, kind of proving our case through their mouths. And in this one, there were some documents that showed these, because they got to keep the logbooks for the chlorine levels, and they got to document it every day. And so what they were doing is you look, and every single day the chlorine levels time are like perfect. I mean, just like statistically improbably perfect. And I was like, that's interesting. Like they're too perfect. If you were going to make up numbers, this is what someone would make up. So then I looked, and on 6 straight days, including the 2 days that our little boy was in the lazy river, this big old resort, 6 straight days, it's got the same initial. It had an R right there. And I started thinking, I wonder if that guy really worked 6 straight days. So we requested, that employee's name was Juan Rivera, or is Juan Rivera. We requested his timesheets. And sure enough, on his timesheets, it showed that he was scheduled to work on May 24th of 2020 and May 25th of 2020, but that he didn't work any hours on those days and didn't receive any pay on those days. But again, going back to the pool logs, it showed that Juan Rivera was the one who initialed the chlorine levels on May 24th and May 25th. So basically, they were cooking the books, right?
Sure.
So we thought we had fraud right there. So we didn't know for sure. It looked a heck of a lot like fraud. It smelled like fraud. But we got Mr. Rivera to a videotape deposition. I love videotaping depositions because it just comes off. For instance, sometimes a witness will pause when they're really stuck on a question. They'll kind of shake their head, and then eventually, no, they'll deny something. But you can tell from the video that the answer is yes.
Or they look off, right?
Got it. Yeah, there are a bunch of things.
Right.
So in this one, about 2.5 hours into the deposition, Mr. Rivera finally admitted, he falsified the logs. He wasn't working May 24th, wasn't working May 25th, came in on May 26th and just made up the numbers. So then it was like, well, and one of Brian Ward's partners, a woman named Erin Powers, said, hey, ask him how long you've been doing it. That's a great question. Mr. Rivera, how long you been doing it? A year. A year before Ashman ever got in that water, correct? Yeah. And then I had the good thought of, well, Mr. Rivera, when did you stop? Well, when I found out I had to do this deposition, yes, sir. Turns out, because we took this deposition in December of 2022, Tom, that's a total of 3.5 years this guy had been falsifying the pool chemical logbooks. And our question was, well, hold on now. It took me 15 minutes to figure this thing out, on their own documents. How did no one in this big ass corporation figure out for 3.5 years that the guy was cooking the books? So we went to Mr. Rivera's supervisor. I asked him, would you like to know how many times Mr. Rivera had falsified the logs before little Ashton ever got in your water? Answer, I don't really care.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we go up another click to the department head, the guy who was known as their chief engineer over this big old property. His name was Tony Robinette. And I started asking Tony, Mr. Robinette, about the pool chemical log books and what responsibility he had. He starts pleading the Fifth Amendment. So we get him to plead the Fifth Amendment. This is a civil case. But what happened is Rivera got arrested and Robinette didn't want to get arrested. So Robinette just starts pleading the Fifth Amendment over and over and ends up pleading the Fifth Amendment more than 20 times on questions about these log books. So then we just kept going up higher and higher and higher through the corporation, Tom. And at every point, it was just so evident, so undeniably clear. They just didn't give a damn. And what turns out is you think, well, hold on. Well, did Rivera do this because a kid had gotten burnt? And you find out, no, he'd been doing it for 3.5 years. It turns out that the thing was as simple as this, Tom. They had to keep their pools open because their pools were their moneymaker. And when you went to their website at Caribbean Resorts, they've got this long video, and all the videos are these kids in pools, and it's basically luring and attracting families to the pools. And their video ends with, what are you waiting for? Jump on in. And so we use that to show and highlight the hypocrisy in their marketing versus how they actually approached safety and children's well-being. And we just made it such an explosive, punitive case, in addition to this terrible harm that the little boy suffered. He had permanent scars in his groin, not on his reproductive area, not on his privates, but in that pubic area and around his groin, that there was just so much damn risk. And we're good trial lawyers. I think Nick Rowley's as good a trial lawyer as there is in the United States. And
well, what about the defense? Was the defense just helpless? Like they're just letting him say all that stuff, or did they had no ability to stop them from talking?
I think for Rivera, it's a good question. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, right? And I haven't come up with a good answer. With Rivera, I think Rivera just wanted to get it off his chest. I think he did feel really guilty. Like Rivera wanted to absolve himself. So I think Rivera wanted to tell the truth. Rob Wright, I think the defense lawyer told me after, like, he didn't say a lot of those things when I was prepping him. I said, yeah, I understand. And then Robinette, they did prep him. They prepped him presumably
After that, right? Like after all that was out, and they were like, "Don't say a thing because its damage is so bad already."
Yeah, and they just had a tough case. The tough part for defense attorneys is they don't get to pick their clients.
Right.
They get hired by an insurance company. Insurance company assigns a case to them. The case they get assigned, they had no say over whether or not to take it. They have no control, particularly over their client or what their client has already done and the harm they've caused. So the defense lawyers in this one just got dealt a really, really bad hand. And then some of the defense experts that were named, one guy in particular, his name is Robert Bennett down in Charleston. And he holds himself out as a forensic toxicologist and a pharmacy license, I believe he says. That might be wrong, but forensic toxicologist for sure. And in his report, Tom, he essentially said, I'm paraphrasing, but the report read, in essence, there is no one to blame for the toddler's injury except for the toddler himself, because he peed in his diaper, unknowingly causing a dangerous chemical combination to form and scar him. So we just, pulled out, there's no one to blame but the toddler himself. And that's a pretty callous, scorched earth position when you've got a screaming 3-year-old chemical burns across his groin because of a criminal cover-up. You talk about cojones, that takes some cojones to say.
Has there other people been injured? Other kids?
Yeah, that's the question that so many people have. Chlorine is interesting. Chlorine burns are interesting. A lot of times, different people will have different
reactions.
Yeah. So, for instance, my bathing suit might get a little faded out. Somebody's jewelry, might get a little oxidized. But little kids and older people are more at risk because they literally have thinner skin, and the areas of their most tender skin is around their groin area.
Yeah.
What happens is the bathing suit that the kids are swimming in, usually the kids are in the water longer than you or I would be. They stay in the pool all day. It's what advertised that told them to do. And our little boy was floating around the lazy river kind of hour after hour because he was only 3. So he had like his swimmies on. And so between what's known as dose, the amount of chlorine, and anything at a high enough dose becomes poison. So basically the water had been poisoned. Duration of exposure, which for our kid was more likely not longer than anyone else, and vulnerability, which our little boy had. I'd explain why he got hurt so bad and other people may not have. But other family members had, again, faded bathing suits, faded jewelry, their eyes burnt. But they just thought, okay, it's a swimming pool, that happens. No one thought there's so much chlorine in this water, it's going to almost burn off his ability to reproduce. And so what we did is we looked back, Tom, to see are there other people from other time periods who got burnt. And the corporation, again, denied that. They're like, no prior complaints. Well, we went on their Google reviews, and they had like thousands and thousands. They had like 38,000 Google reviews, something wild. And I didn't know this, but there was a search bar within the Google reviews. So we just started searching for the word burn, chemical burn, chlorine, smell. And sure enough, other people had complained.
Wow.
Reading about the chemicals to this corporation. So then when we confronted them with that evidence at the corporate representative's deposition, the corporate representative said, oh, when you said complaints, we thought you meant legal complaints.
Oh.
And then she denied.
Wow.
This one guy, a Marine, who'd reached out to the corporation, a guy named Mason Monk, who'd reached out to the resort and said, hey, my kid and my wife got burnt. And they were like, we never heard of him. And sure enough, Mr. Monk, who we got in touch with, was like, yeah, lady I talked with, the female assistant general manager, the same woman who testified as the corporate representative, who denied any such thing ever happening.
Wow. Well, you said it. I mean, that's a fantastic trial attorney, that work, that discovery. And, that's really it, that you doing that investigation and, doing that due diligence, and then the fact that it's a little kid, right? Like an innocent little kid that's just believing, and the parents are believing it's a safe zone, right? Like this is a big company that has been in operation for years and years and years and years. And big companies don't care about people. Well, humans don't care about other humans, that's for sure. And except, when they're confronted with it, right? They're confronted directly with it. And you're right. If it had gone to a jury, who knows what would have happened then?
Yeah, we focus grouped the case a couple times, and those focus groups didn't do anything to shake our confidence.
Yeah. Well, good job. Congratulations. And, you're great for the family and for this kid. And I'm sure they've cleaned up their act, right? And or who knows?
Man, so this is the craziest part. So April of 2023, the folks from DHEC, which is our Department of Health and Environmental Control, they go out and monitor and check these pools. They're the ones who went out a couple days after our kid got burnt and saw that the pool levels, the chlorine levels were literally off the chart. They go back in April of 2023 because we'd done a site inspection, had real concerns from a safety standpoint, reached back out to DHEC. When DHEC goes in April of 2023, there were 11 pools at the resort open that day. 10 of them had to get shut down because their chlorine levels were out of compliance.
Wow, so they didn't even change.
Nothing changed. It was, Tom, it's like the Twilight Zone at this place. I mean, you can't make it up, dude. It's like, there were times where I kind of look around and be like, how do they not care? Like, what is going on? Finally, we got someone from an insurance company with a third layer of coverage. And she was fantastic. And I think she finally kind of saw the writing on the wall and said, enough is enough. 26 is a lot, but hell, it's less than 126. We need to pay this thing. We need to move on. There's way too much risk, especially with the team of plaintiffs lawyers that's on the other side of the sucker.
Wow. And it makes you question all of these big, amusement parks and water parks, yeah, I mean, I've always wondered about that myself, because it's just nonstop and so many people. And anyway, I'm not a fan of that stuff myself, but congratulations to you. Well done. And
but again, we don't get that case without the burn injury page and without the people finding us.
Plus, you've always been like an advocate for kids. Like that's kind of, one of your niches is, kids injuries. You've had a lot of cases involving like daycare centers. And I remember a case a long time ago where, something happened with the little kid, and we've had a lot of them.
Yeah, good memory. Yeah, we had our first 7-figure case. Shortly after we become a foster client, got on the internet, family up in a place called Lancaster, South Carolina, not far from Charlotte, North Carolina, about an hour from our office, found us through our daycare page.
Yeah.
And her child had been strangled by a jump rope, and it turned into our first 7-figure case.
Yeah. And well, it's great. And, that's just, you hear what Kenny is saying, everybody, it's really, this is about having this kind of particular content on the page. And this is not going to, pay-per-click is not going to get you this, right? Like vanity keywords, like personal injury lawyer, South Carolina, personal injury lawyer, Columbia. That's not going to get you this stuff. People are typing in specific details about what's happened to them. And then that's long tail search. And that's why you've got these particular pages, because those are the kind of cases that you want and you're good at.
I'll tell you, what's been crazy is because y'all's team and our in-house marketing director, Chelsea Fullerton, have done just such a phenomenal job on the website for a decade plus. it's funny. We rank for all these vanity keywords, or a bunch of these vanity keywords now. The inquiries we get from the vanity keywords typically aren't that great.
Right.
Like they're just not that great. Like, when it comes into our personal injury lawyer page or our car accident attorney page or whatever, there are a lot of those. And some of them are like pretty good. Like some are pretty good. But man, our real bangers, the big hitters, come in for things that are more specific, where people have very real, very personal, very consequential questions.
Mm-hmm.
Not like who's going to fix, my bumper after a car accident, but more like, what can you do against a daycare if your child gets strangled there?
Yeah. This is what I've been telling people for 20 years, telling lawyers for 20 years, Kenny, right? And there's still suckers for that, those vanity keywords. And, and there is a host, hundreds and hundreds of web agencies that will just do that for them and get them. I'll get you on page one for that vanity keyword. Sure. No problem. And then they're like, I'm not getting any good cases. I'm wasting all my time on the phone. And they might be getting the leads, like as you said, but they're not worth it. They're not. And you're spending an hour on the phone listening to somebody gripe, and they want $1 million for a bumper that fell off. And then you're like, you don't have a case. And then they run off and, first of all, you wasted your time. And then this prospect runs off and gives you a bad review because you didn't take their case. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, one of the things I'm big on is, positive upward cycles, and kind of like, all right, you do the right thing. There are a bunch of cool benefits that flow from it. Like it's not just one right. It creates like a whole kind of world of like benefit. Same with, if you do the wrong thing, it creates this whole world of unanticipated consequences. And yeah, man, the more, and what we've always done here, you and I have talked about over the years, like we don't want to be that shooting star that does great on page one for 6 months and then gets the Google slap and goes away.
Right.
We've always just been like, hey, let's be like a blue chip stock, year over year over year. Like, let's be, the Berkshire Hathaway without all the insurance practices that Berkshire's acquired. But like, let's just be a blue chip. Let's just be a blue chip where year over year over year, we do really well. And some years, heck, people might do better than us. And a lot of years, there may be one or two people who are doing better than us. But over a 10-year spread, a 20-year spread, a 40-year spread, man, we are way, 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 way out in front.
Yeah, you're doing fantastic. And I appreciate your loyalty. I appreciate your trust in us, Kenny. We hit it off right away in the very beginning, and got to know each other and have had several iterations of the website, right? It's been redesigned and updated many times, and you've worked with our people. And I just can't thank you enough for that. I can't thank you enough for putting your trust in me and in my company.
Thank you for believing in us.
Well, you're a good lawyer. You're a good guy.
Thank you. You are too. You took us on, maybe I was 31 or so, 32. So I don't know, young, right?
Yes.
When I became a client, and it wasn't like, it was like, who's this young dude with the baby face? It was like, hey man, we'd love to have you as a client. Y'all treated me the same way you'd treat, a Nick Rowley, a Mark Lanier, fill in the blank of kind of trial lawyer giants. I don't forget that stuff. Same way the people who were, shitty. I'll let it go, but man, I'll forget it.
Well, we only work with good guys. We turn away a lot of people, and we've let people go that just weren't up to our standards because of their, behavior or their treatment of us, our treatment of our employees, and not trusting, not being truthful with us. A big part of it is the back and forth, right? Working with Chelsea, working with your marketing people, we have to get feedback and knowing what kind of leads are coming in. And a lot of lawyers are, they don't want to tell you about their big cases or the good leads because they think we're going to charge them more. And that's, not what it's about, right? It's about finding out, like, okay, that burn injury page got you that great case, that great lead. Okay, so what can we do to do more of that? Like, what can we do more in that area? Whereas, okay, if like the car accident page or one of the pages isn't delivering better leads, well, let's not focus on that. Let's focus on where you're getting the best clients for you. And that's a back and forth. We got to know, right?
Yeah. And again, I'll say a couple things about your team. One, y'all have always been super receptive and responsive. Like anytime, again, this collaborative, osmotic, it's a relationship. And it's never been, no, we don't trust you. We don't value you. Y'all are just the law firm. Y'all have embraced Chelsea as someone who's I think she got her SEO certification before she started with us. It's always just been a very dignified relationship. And when things have been, when there's been room for improvement, y'all have suggested ways we can improve. When we've seen things on our end of saying, hey, we'd like to improve here, y'all have said, great. I mean, it's been so collaborative and so mutually beneficial. It's been a wonderful thing, combined with whenever y'all have made recommendations to us, 99.9% of the time, maybe 100% of the time, we should have taken your recommendation earlier than I did. Like for a long time, y'all were like, hey man, you should bump up to this new version of the website for page speed. And I was like, nah, I kind of like the way this old one looks. And y'all were like, right, but like page speed's a big deal. I was like, right, that's cool. And I resisted it for probably a year, and fell back on rank, impressions, all that stuff. Not because of anything y'all had done, but because of my own incalcitrance. And then once I finally said, yeah, let's do it, the last 4 years have been great. The first 5 years, let's say, y'all were such a leader in the field and so far ahead of everybody else that it really leveled the playing field for us from a competitive standpoint, because we didn't have results we could ride on. We didn't have relationships we could ride on. For us, the great equalizer and the great strategic advantage was embracing the internet. It was low cost. And we had a great partner, and a lot of our cases early on came from the internet. And then, our market became very, very, very saturated, and y'all recommended changes that would benefit us. And I thought I kind of rested on my laurels wrong. And then once I started listening and kind of took my hands off it and said, Chelsea and Foster Webb, y'all run with it. When there's a really big decision, come to me, but otherwise I trust y'all. Voila. It's just been tremendous. And last thing on this and on that same front is every time there's been one of these big Google updates, because we've done things in a best practices, white hat kind of way, as Google has caught up.
Yeah.
We've done better and better.
Yeah.
We've never tried to, we haven't taken any shortcuts. We haven't gone out and bought.
No, and you haven't been complacent. And that's another thing that happens a lot is attorneys get complacent. They're like, oh, it's good.
When I got complacent for about a year, and then I saw our numbers and thought, man, I need to get the hell out of the way. I'm the problem here.
Yeah. Yep. And you got it. And it's, it's not us that's trying to get you to it. Of course, we want you to, and Google changes, users change in what they expect. Obviously, the way your website looks now is way different than the way it looked 10 years ago, right? The old 3-column design or whatever, that kind of thing. And it's not just about adding content. It's also about design. It's about a lot of things, and you've got to continue to look fresh and new for your clients, because they expect that, and Google expects it. Otherwise, Google will think that you're not paying attention and you don't care. And they're going to put somebody else above you that does care. And that's one of the algorithms.
Yeah. And again, you're not, I'm not receiving the benefit of a pitch or anything, but it's like, I'd say to any prospective clients or current clients, like, listen to your web team. You might be the one who's making the decision, but like, man, just listen the same way we want our clients to listen when it comes to legal issues. When it comes to web marketing issue, listen to the experts.
Except if that league or web team is telling you to spend more money on pay-per-click. You're like, I'm not getting the cases I want. Oh, well, you got to up your budget. That's just BS. That's just more money in their pocket. That's all that is. And
when I said web team, I should have said your Foster web team.
Right. Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Well, Kenny, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for telling that great story about that case. We could go on for a lot long. I had a bunch of questions, but we filled up our time with that. We're going to have another one here because I want to catch up on some other things. So we'll get you on the podcast again because people want to hear about, about, how you've done this. You're such a great lawyer, such a great person, you have such great ethics. And, that's the reason why you get the good cases. And, because you really, truly want to help people and, it shows and it's in your energy. And so thank you so much for being a great partner to me, my company, all these years.
Yeah. I love you guys.
Well, we love you too, buddy. I love you too. And sadly, I had to sell the boat, right? But I'm going to get another one.
So long as we have the Snickers.
That's
right. What is it? Ditch the gun, bring the cannoli. We can leave the boat, take the almond Snickers. So long as we got an almond Snickers, I'll be there.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell that story another day.
Another day.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Kenny Berger, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you for listening. This is Tom Foster and Kenny Berger signing off on the World of Marketing. We will see you soon.